Welcome back to another episode of the Thumb Strong podcast. Joined as always by Bethany and Barry. How are we doing today?
Good.
Good. All right. We are going to be talking about how to build a more injury-proof body. So I've been chatting with a lot of members and people outside of the gym as well. Joined golf league, and so I've been playing golf with a lot of people the last few weeks, and I've just more and more I've been hearing about how people have just aches and pains and injuries that they deal with, more chronic stuff, and it just kind of limits them. And so we figured we would talk about how to improve so that you don't have to deal with those aches and pains as much, how you can actually heal or recover a little bit faster from injuries so you don't have to deal with that pain and stuff every day, because it kind of comes into your daily life and it affects like even work and just daily activities and all that stuff. And most people think that, as they age, it's just kind of a natural thing. Like you're just going to have those aches and pains and stuff like that. And obviously, like to an extent that is true. Like you are going to naturally just have a little bit more aches and pains, but there's a lot that we can do to help prevent that. And, a lot of our clients, and it was really cool because we were at golf outing last Friday, and two of our clients were just raving about how they feel, and two other people about how much better they feel from doing classes 3 days a week and working out consistently. And they just don't have that back pain anymore, the knee pain and stuff like that. And it's a lot better, and they just feel better throughout the day. So I thought that was really cool. And a couple people mentioned after that, oh, I've been dealing with this and I've been dealing with that. And so now they're interested in getting into some strength training. So figured we would share it. And we want to kind of start with basically like how common it is with adults, because it's something that most people deal with on a daily basis. Yeah. So if you've ever been that person that, has done something around the house, or, you're doing yard work or chores or whatever, and all of a sudden you move the wrong way and you might, hurt your back or your shoulder or whatever. And even just doing some of those daily things, like it's always the random stuff that you end up hurting yourself, or, like the one day when I was running on the treadmill, I threw my back out so bad. Just random things, it's always something like that. So we want to kind of talk about how we can help prevent that, or at least reduce it. So, Bethany, how common is pain in adults
it's pretty
in the U.S.?
Common. Yeah, so they did a study in 2023, and 24.3% of adults in the U.S. had chronic pain, and 8.5% had a high impact chronic pain that would limit their work and life activities. So 1 in 4 U.S. adults have
chronic pain.
Yep. And then in 2019, nearly 3 in 5 adults, so like 58.9%, experienced pain of some sort in the last 3 months. And same report found like 39% had back pain, 36.5% had lower limb pain, and then 30.7% had upper limb pain, which I would say from experience, most people, it's either their back, their knees, their shoulders are usually the biggest culprit, sometimes hips, but like everything else is usually very like low case. It's mostly shoulders, back, or knees for a lot of people. So if somebody comes into the gym with one of the above conditions, it's not an exception. It's very common that people have some sort of prior injuries or limitations or something. So it's very common that people come in, we need to work around those limitations either at first until they get better, or sometimes indefinitely, depending on what their condition is. And so many people respond to that pain by doing less and less, or like if they have something, oh, my wrist hurts, so I'm not going to come into the gym today. And it's like the rest of your body is fine. You can still train that, right? And I know it's harder and a little bit more inconvenient, but, I trained with a broken ankle and I just hobbled around and did what I could. Sometimes I just did upper body. Most of the time it's just upper body. But my upper body got really strong. And my one leg got pretty strong too.
Yeah. Working around or starting with lighter movements as well.
Yeah.
So just still keeping it active and still doing things.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of like for a lot of people, it's not. They just think that the standard protocol is like, oh, I have this injury or pain, I need to rest and just basically do nothing. And I would say most of the time it just ends up making things worse. Like it might feel better in the moment because you're not doing anything with it, right? But like it's not going to help that long term. You're probably just more prone to injuring it or having those aches and pains again eventually, right? I've always I've had quite a few injuries, and I injured my back really bad when I was like 18, and I was going to chiropractors and all this stuff, and it basically just came down to like I wasn't doing nearly enough core, and wasn't doing enough mobility, like stretching and stuff like that before and after a workout. And so once I learned that and kept training it, like it got better, and I've been able to manage it really well over the last 10 or 12 years, 14 years, whatever. And yeah, sometimes I'll tweak it. You guys know that. Like it's been a while though since I've had it be really bad on me. So and there's certain things that you need to maybe avoid, and there's certain things that you definitely need to incorporate. And you can manage it very, very well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely what we want to get into. But yeah, it was pretty eye opening. Like 60% of people deal with some sort of pain, in the last 3 months or something like that. It's pretty wild. And when you think about it, like how many people come in for training or something like that, and they have some sort of issue going on. They're like, oh yeah, I've got this, and we need to work around that. And,
I would say it's less than 60% as far as like our members, like in classes, as far as like within the last 3 months. I mean, there's like definitely a handful that's got something going on, but
when they first come in, it's
when they first come in, it's like general population who aren't training and working out is definitely higher.
Yeah. I get a lot of the beginners, and I talk to them about if they have any injuries and things like that, and they always say like, yeah, like this, I have this going on and this going on, and they have some sort of pain. So I definitely hear a lot of it too.
Yeah. When one of my clients that I've been training a few days a week for 10 years now, he first came in, he was about 51 or 2, and he his one leg kind of like drug it. I mean, his back was bad, and it was going down his leg, and so he didn't walk completely normally. It was kind of like dragging that leg, and so we got started for that. He came in, he's like, I need to get my back better. So we did a lot of core and a lot of stretching and mobility stuff. And then we got that better to where he can move normally. Then it was focusing just on strengthening and getting in better shape. And here we are 10 years later. Now he's 62 and he can move way better than he could at 52. And so, in his head, maybe he's not as fit as he wants to be. And when you look at him, he looks very similar to what he did. But if you think about it, like if he didn't do that training, how much worse could he be now at 10 years later? And to be actually moving better and still maintaining the same physical appearance, as he did 10 years ago is a very big win in my mind. And he recognizes that too. So that's really cool.
Or for you,
I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Say if you injured your back and you stopped training, like you said, you kept training.
Right.
So it's so important to keep those habits while you still go.
Yeah. And I don't know how my back might be if I didn't do any training, at all. So, and it's funny too, because like I had that knee issue a few years ago. Remember like the CrossFit Open in the quarterfinals, and my knee kept like kind of giving out when I would reach like a halfway bent. So anytime I bent over, like pick up the bar, it would kind of like give out on me. I was like, what the heck? And so I just did a lot more focus on building that knee up and different accessory work and stuff like that. And so like most people would be like, oh, well, I better not run, I better not squat, or I better not do this, that, whatever, just rest it. And what's funny is now that it's warmer out and I've been running a lot more consistently, it feels better than it has in like months.
Yeah.
So it's doing the opposite of what most people would think about doing, is actually helping it.
Yeah.
And that, I think it comes down to the capacity, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like, okay, so now we'll get into like why are adults getting hurt more and more. So as adults get older, obviously many injuries, they aren't caused by one dramatic movement. It's caused by the body just slowly losing capacity. So if you're not doing any exercise or strength training, your body is just naturally going to kind of lose that capacity for what it can handle. And so maybe your body is only prepared at a level 4 out of 10 right now, and then you go and do something that demands a lot from yourself, like a level 8. That's when things are going to break down and injuries are going to happen. So some examples are like if you maybe during the winter months we don't do a whole lot, we're sitting a lot more, we're not squatting, we're not hinging, we're not lifting or anything, and then we go and do 6 hours of yard work in the spring and get our flower beds ready and do some landscaping, whatever. And then all of a sudden you wake up with, oh, my lower back's super sore, my shoulder, all that stuff starts piling up because you don't have that capacity anymore. Maybe you sit all week and then you go out and you play 18 holes of golf or softball, hockey, pickleball, whatever. You do something active, then you're going to be super sore. Maybe
Right.
you develop that injury or that pain, that ache. If you don't train your legs and you do a bunch of stairs, or maybe you go on a trip and you do a lot of hiking or walking, you're going to be, maybe your knees then hurt or something like that, right? If you don't strengthen your core or your hips, your back takes over, and that's what a lot of times we develop that back pain. You avoid movement because of that pain, and then the body just gets weaker and more sensitive. And then when you go back to that heavier load, that's when things are just going to continue to get worse, right? I think another good example would be Mark. I mean, he's feeling so much better, and he was in a lot of pain and moving around, struggling to move around, and now just from strength training and doing really simple stuff, he's starting to move around a lot better, and I'm sure his pains are getting a little bit better too.
Yeah, definitely comes and goes depending on what what the pain is stemming from and things like that. But overall, generally, it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, a lot of adult injuries are not just random; they're a mismatch between what life demands and what your body is prepared for. So, now we'll kind of get into okay, how much can exercise reduce those injuries?
Lots of theory.
Yeah. So strength training, it's proved that it reduces a lot of sport injuries. I see a lot of kids that aren't lifting and they go and try and sport and they get injured right away because they weren't ready for that demand, like we were talking about. And
strength training reduces those injuries by a third. 33%.
Yes, by 1/3, which is
pretty cool.
It is really cool to see that. It doesn't mean that every adult will reduce an injury by exactly that amount. This research was largely in athletic and active populations. But the principle applies to every adult too. Stronger muscles, tendon, joints, and connective tissues can handle more stress. So just staying active and keeping that demand in the gym and outside at the same levels and definitely reduce some injuries there.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
And a review found that exercise reduced falls by 23%, which is pretty big for adults, especially like that 60 plus population. If they exercise, even walking and stuff like that, and doing some strength training, that's one of the leading causes of injuries is falls for people 60 plus or 70 plus, whatever. So just by maintaining a little bit more capacity and strength, you can reduce that and then avoid those injuries as well.
Yeah. My grandparents are very active. My grandpa, he farms around 700 acres by himself. So he walks a lot, and he's 80, I want to say 82 or 83. And he fell the other week and he got right back up and he was just fine.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Seeing, especially in my life, seeing my grandparents stay so active and are so healthy, and that they can take a fall and get back up, and he got back in his tractor and start farming still. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. That's really cool. So kind of like best protocol for dealing with those aches and pains or chronic issues, the durability protocol. So obviously we've talked about this 100 times, but CDC recommends adults get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week and at least 2 days of strength training, muscle strengthening activity per week. So for beginners, 2 full body strength training workouts a week is actually very sufficient. especially during like right now. I know we talked about like, summer months are here. People are doing a lot more outside. They're traveling, camping, whatever. Like you don't have to live in the gym to avoid a lot, or like get a lot of these benefits and help avoid those aches and pains, be stronger, and not to mention like it'll just allow you to do all those things easier, right? Like you can actually move around and do the yard work and do the activities that you want to do and stuff like that. A more intermediate would be like 3 full body or maybe a split days of strength training, and then advanced is that 3 or 4 or 5 days a week of strength training. But you always want to focus on making sure you're hitting every kind of movement pattern. That way we're developed everywhere in our body and not just in one area or the other. That's another thing about just doing stuff around the house and yard work, or if maybe your job is manual labor but you do like the same repetitive movement all the time, you still could be at risk of injuring because certain areas of your body are underdeveloped compared to the others, so you have like that imbalance and stuff.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're focusing on all those movement patterns, like we talk about the squat, the hinge, the push, the pull. So you got like your upper body push pull, your lower body push and pull, making sure you're incorporating that core. So if you think about from your ribs to your hips, you just have your spine, and then it's all muscle all the way around. When people think of core, they think of abs, right? But they don't think of their lower back, their obliques, all that stuff. Like everything around here, you want to strengthen. That should be the strongest point of your body, because if it's really weak, that's where we run into issues. Like we said, knees, back, and shoulders. So making sure you have the loaded carries and the core work, like the planks and we do a lot of like hollow holds and Supermans. So you get in the lower back, the arch body holds and stuff like that to develop the whole core. So those are some good, obviously, ways, and you can just look up, lower body push movements, lower body pull movements, upper body push, upper body pull, and then core, abs and core. Make sure you're getting everything around there, and as long as you hit each one of those movements at least once a week, ideally maybe even twice a week, that's where you're going to notice a really massive difference in how you feel and in avoiding those injuries and getting stronger in general. So the answer is definitely not to avoid every movement that bothers you forever. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of get worse. The answer is to find the right version of that movement and build it back up. So, for example, if somebody comes in and they got knee issue and hip issue and back issue, we're not going to start them out with barbell squats or even dumbbell squats for that matter. We might start with just a sit to the bench or the box and stand, just a box squat. And we might even use the rings or the TRX straps for assistance. And then once you build up that capacity, then you move to the next level, which might be, okay, now we're going to add a little bit of weight and still use the box or the bench. And then eventually maybe it's removing that box or bench and then progressively moving up. So you're building that capacity. But the other thing is like just general movement. So walking most days. So if you can get, sometimes we'll set goals of like, if you have a watch or something, maybe it's at 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day, or just going out for a 20 to 30 minute walk a day, or even just going out for a 10-minute walk after meals, a couple times, like ideally daily or at least a few days a week, right? Adding in balance and stability. So this is going to be really important for especially people like 50, 60 plus, because your balance and stability will start to get a little bit worse. So practice like single leg stuff, balancing, step ups, split squats, lunges, things like that. Walking on uneven ground even. So, if you're walking out in the yard barefoot and stuff like that, hitting the trails, hitting the beach, stuff like that, that's always good. So just kind of making sure you're kind of getting a diverse plan with incorporating some daily movement and those strength training days is really going to help you get that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Let's see. Inflammation. I also want to touch on like inflammation, because that's a big part of our pain too. So a lot of joint pain with inflammation and stuff. So with nutrition, that's going to play a big role in that. So Bethany, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So obviously what you're putting into your body is becoming what your cells are made of, right? That's the building blocks for everything. So if you're not sleeping right, your body can't recover and heal any like little micro tears or little injuries. Like that's when your body goes through the healing processes. If you have high stress, then your body is going to have a higher inflammation level due to that, just due to cortisol. The poor nutrition, obviously, you're getting things that are not good for you in your diet, then that's going to cause that higher baseline of inflammation. And low protein, you're not going to have those building blocks to repair your body or build it up. And then dehydration also can cause like muscle cramps, and that could also lead to more injuries, brain fog, things like that, just not being as focused. And then obviously excess body weight, that can all make pain feel worse and make recovery slower.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So focus on whole foods, getting in your protein, getting your healthy fats, try to avoid like the excess of added sugars and stuff, because that will definitely lead to more inflammation.
Yeah.
And those achy pains and stuff like that. We won't go too far in depth with all the nutrition, but that's just a baseline. So now I kind of want to go into like what to do if you're currently hurt. Barry, you want to go through, there's, 4 steps here for what to do if you are currently hurt or have an ache or a pain or an injury.
Yeah, so the first one is definitely don't ignore the red flags. First of all, seeking medical guidance. I know physical therapy if you need that, if you're actually injured. But say if you have severe pain, numbness or tingling, a loss of strength, pain after a fall or accident, swelling, pain that worsens, or chest pains, definitely seek medical attention first. That'd be the biggest one. The second one would be to keep moving around the injury. So we talked about this a little bit. Don't just ignore it. It's like when you hurt your knee, you didn't just ignore it. You did the little movements that helped a little bit. So like those Patrick step ups, and not continuing to load the weight on the barbell if that's what you're thinking of doing. The third step is to modify instead of quit. So again, like you hurt your back, you hurt your knee, people have different pains, switching the exercises up a little bit, putting that box under you for the squats. And then the last one is to progress back gradually. So what Taylor was talking about, you take the box out once you're done and you've felt like that you've been better at it, and then start adding back into those squats when you feel less pain.
Right. And that applies to pretty much any movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just start really small. A lot of times with shoulder stuff, we'll just even do a lot of band work and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe it's a rotator cuff. So, okay, obviously we're not going to be doing some barbell presses or anything like that. Okay, let's just focus on that rotation, external, internal rotations with some bands or light dumbbells. Once that starts getting stronger or feeling better, then we can reintroduce some of those other movements and get some more range of motion and strength back into that area. So, it might be starting at 50 to 70% of what you used to do and then gradually working your way back up if you experience an injury or a setback, an ache, a pain, something like that, right? So, common mistakes that adults make. Mistake 1, waiting until the pain is gone before doing anything. So often, the right exercise plan is part of what helps actually improve the plan. So making sure that you're actually still moving and getting the blood pumping throughout the body helps with that recovery process.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just sit and do nothing. You want to kind of get the blood pumping and moving. A lot of people, it's kind of funny, even with soreness, like, maybe you did work out really hard and you're really sore. That's the first thing we think of, like, oh, I got to take a couple of days off. I'm like super sore. You can go at a lighter intensity. A lot of times that's a good time for like an active recovery day. So just moving the body, going through the motions, body weight even, or walking, getting the blood pumping will help. Like, and a lot of times, even before class, when we first do that warm up and they're feeling the effects of the workout from 2 days prior, they're like, oh man, my legs are sore, but then when you get moving, you get the blood pumping, that soreness is kind of relieved and gone, right? And how many times could we say that after when we were training really hard for CrossFit? It's like every day, it was like a 20-30 minute warm up to get the blood pumping, get everything stretched out, and avoid that soreness, and then you're good to go.
Something was always sore.
Yep. Doing random workouts is mistake number 2. You definitely want to make sure that you're doing, like I said, all the movement patterns. It's not just random. You want to have progression to where you're either adding a couple reps or adding a little bit of weight back in, or doing a couple extra sets, making sure maybe it's adding another day. So you're always kind of working up in progression to build that capacity back up. People think that only stretching is going to be a good thing. So stretching does feel good, but if for example, if you have tight hamstrings or an injured hamstring and you're just stretching it all the time, especially if it's cold, that could actually make it worse.
Yeah.
Right. So stretching isn't the only answer. It is good to do, but it's best to do static stretching like after you've warmed the muscle up or exercised or worked out. Going too hard too soon. So a lot of times, like if I tweaked my back, went to the chiropractor, he put it back in, I'm like, oh man, it feels great. And then I go right back into deadlifting or squatting, boom, I'm going to throw that sucker back out. So you definitely want to ease back into it, even if you are feeling good. And then ignoring nutrition and recovery is another thing. So like Bethany touched on, like getting enough protein, getting enough water, getting enough sleep. Sleep is where our body repairs, and our mind and brain and everything. So make sure that you're prioritizing those things as well. So that'll pretty much wrap it up. Hopefully this was helpful. Just a closing message. Pain may be common, but that doesn't mean that we should accept feeling weak, stiff, limited. Strength training, walking, balance work, better nutrition, better recovery will give your body a better chance to handle what life throws at us. So the goal isn't necessarily to train like an athlete. It's just to build that body up so that you can do the things that you want without constantly breaking down or feeling hurt or injured, right? So if you want help building a plan around this, like we help people all the time. I mean, the majority of our clients have some sort of injury or pain or ache that they're dealing with, and we work around it, and 9 times out of 10 we can help it make it feel better. So if you need help, reach out to us. We would be happy to meet with you. We will meet you where you're at and work around that area, and hopefully help you feel a lot better and relieve it, and not only relieve it but get stronger so that you can do the things that you want to do. So until next time, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys soon.